Then and now, we got the crown when we rock the town. Hot sound, keep us breaking ground while we chillin' lounge. 3 generations, black nerd soldiers, podcast snipers trying to pop culture. Allegedly, haters try to talk, but a pedigree in rare form.
Hello, everybody.
You're listening to the Then and Now podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of the Then and Now podcast. I'm your co-host, Captain Diesel, and I'm joined with the usual co-host, my boy Lelouch V has returned, aka the Kratos of Gaming, aka the Big Blurred Muffin, and I'm also joined with Professor E, King of the Comics, Ethan Murphy. How are y'all doing, my brothers?
Not too bad, you know, a fuck ton of good content out there, so happy about that. And then, you know, back to the show, back to talking with the guys, so can't beat that.
Felt that.
Likewise, man. Yeah, there are a lot of shows out here. I think last time with this show, I was barely able to see half of the things we were talking about, but now I've caught up on all those things and then some. So yeah, it's a lot of good content out there. Right on.
And shout out to the Lakers, but we're moving on to the round 2 real soon, boy. Hey man, see man. Shout out to the 85-year-old LeBron James.
I mean, unless it's like this, the biggest collapse in like playoff history in a long time. Yeah, y'all just gonna coast it next round.
That stuff happens.
Yeah.
That stuff. Don't say that. That stuff happens.
Actually, this has never happened. Actually,
collapses happen.
A 3-0 collapse has never happened in 170.
Collapses happen.
Not to this degree though. In this sport,
not 3-0, but collapses do happen. Trust me.
It's not to this. Not with my team. It won't. It's the fuck. That's other teams.
Knock on some wood. Yeah, knock on some wood, man.
I ain't got to knock on shit. Wood. We got this shit in the bag. I ain't worried about that shit. Y'all, we gonna get into some fun stuff today, but predominantly, we're gonna be discussing our finale and recap of Invincible season. What is it, season 3 or 4? I can't remember. 4. This is a dope season. I think a season a lot of people were looking forward to because we got into the Viltrumite War, a thing that a lot of people were looking forward to. And it's also teed up some stuff that, you know, people like myself are looking forward to, regardless of what I believe will be the best season, as well as some annoying conversations that as soon as people's favorite content creators brought up, I knew people were going to be immature and not be able to have adult conversations about. But, you know, we'll talk about it. First and foremost, before we get into the details, how did y'all feel? Like, give me an overview of the season. How you feel about it?
Honestly, personally, I think this is the best season so far. I think that we got a lot of, you know, story resolution here. I think we got a lot of character development. I think we got to see a lot of the world of Invincible through the lens of the war. Not too many complaints here on my part, honestly, man. Really good season.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good season too. It might be my favorite. I'm not entirely sure. One thing I like about it too, I made it pretty clear. Mark is an okay character, but he's not the one I relate to the most. I definitely like Nolan, Alan, and obviously my girl, Debbie. So this season had some major highlights for all 3 of them. So it was a lot of fun to watch it. And of course, the Viltrumites themselves, they are a menace and a half. So it was a lot of fun to see them cut loose. Yeah. So it was a fun season.
Yeah, I can agree. I think this is peak in regards to the voice acting performances. The animation, I think, was at its best this season so far. Development, like I said before, was great for, well, like Ethan, like Otis said before, the development for certain characters was great. We got a lot more development from characters I didn't expect to, like with Oliver and whatnot, and getting him to have his kind of father-son bond. Alan, I'm glad they've turned Alan into more of a character and not focus on just the jokes. I was kind of scared of that initially because I know in the comics he's a major player and stuff. And having Seth Rogen play him, I'm like, okay, it could be really easy just to kind of roll into that comedic bag with having Seth Rogen play the character. So seeing that Seth Rogen can actually get into more of a, I guess, more serious lane of performance when it comes to voice acting really impressed me. And I'm excited to see what that has to offer going forward. And all in all, this has just been a great season for the show. I'm honestly, I'd agree with the guys. This is probably the best season of this show so far, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, it was interesting too to see, as far as, even though Mark is my favorite, he had development as well, as far as just genuinely really dealing with the ramifications as far as everything he's been through. I think he's like 20 roughly at this point, 20, maybe 21. And he has obviously massive genuine.
Just adding trauma on trauma.
Trauma.
PTSD, anxiety attacks, not schizophrenia. Or you argue schizophrenia. Like then he's just building on more and more mental health fucking issues.
Yeah. And then the thing was that finally at the end when he's sitting there with Cecil and Donald, he actually says, "Yeah, I would like to see
I need help.
A therapist. I need to see somebody. I can't just keep trying to white knuckle this stuff like any other hero in a comic. I have to talk to somebody. I'm losing my mind. So I was like, that's dope. That's unusual, and I'm glad they put it in there.
I think that's the best thing about these types of shows when you're looking at what do superheroes look like in a real setting. And I think the mental health aspect is something that this show's always really hit on really strongly, that these people with these godlike abilities still have human minds at the end of the day. Like you still think like a regular person and you're susceptible to any other mental health issue that any other regular person would have. So yeah, well, I've been enjoying that.
Nolan, they've been doing that with Nolan for a while. Like season 2, it shows, even in season 1, at the end of season 1, it shows him dealing with grappling with the issues as far as I have to basically kill my son in my world. Then in season 2, it shows him as he's depressed. He's literally at the edge of the black hole. For those who don't know, he's pretty much trying to unalive himself. He's very depressed, and he has to deal with that kind of stuff. And the whole rest of this series is him dealing with his redemption arc. So that's a person dealing with severe trauma and PTSD as well. Then you see in season 4 what caused a lot of the trauma his whole life, starting back to the whole scourge and his parents. My God, his parents. So it's a lot. It's a lot.
They did a good job of developing the Viltrumite society out, because I think that made people feel for Nolan even more. Because granted, after season 1, still objectively evil ass. So I think when I've talked to people about it, I have the same like. I think people are having the same realization that like they have for like Vegeta, where it's like, hey man, you had all this redemption. You're a great guy now. You're saving the world, but you still committed genocide though. So you're going to hell for that.
A couple.
Like Vegeta, what do you have Piccolo? He was like, you think I'll see Kakarot again? It was a bridge. It was like in heaven, because no.
The best part is
Nolan is just like, hey, I apologize, brother. You killed hundreds of people.
Hundreds.
Actually, Cecil called up the exact number. It's like 2,400.
That's just on Earth.
Yeah, that's on one planet. So there's it also like Cecil's like, don't get too close, man. I don't
think they give you the exact number of how many planets he's conquered up until that point.
Yeah. I mean, we get like it in anecdotes throughout like the end of last season and the beginning of this season. Like, you know, like when you say he literally pushed a planet closer to its sun to dry it out. Like, that's billions. That's billions.
When you're 1,000 years old, bro, you just be, and you probably took off and like actually became like a outgoing Viltrumite soldier, probably like around the age of 18, 19. Mm-hmm. So you have well over 1,000 years of fucking just like conquering planets and committing mass genocide. Just, yeah, brother, you're going to hell for that.
That's bad. That's bad.
In the handbasket.
Well, we don't know. Well, maybe, I don't know. I forgot we was like seeing how hell and heaven work in this world, and apparently there's no like moral compass for the most part in regards to how it works and how I understand it, I guess.
That was interesting. They actually go to
So
hell.
Can we talk about that episode? Because I was really underwhelmed. I was very underwhelmed by that episode particularly. It felt like a filler episode, honestly.
It was 100% filler. I mean, it literally wasn't in the comics. It was written specifically or just for this.
I enjoyed it. Just again, it always gets into the aspect of why I have issues with certain adaptations, because they don't expand on it. These are the type of things where I'm like, okay, yeah, you took stuff that was already there and you expounded upon it, because this is a whole aspect of this world that we didn't really get to see for the most part in the comics in regards to like the heaven or hell stuff, or even more around I almost called that nigga Damien Dark. What was his fucking name?
Yeah, Damien Dark.
I almost called him Etrigan, but I fucking forgot his name.
I mean, but yeah, he does look like
he's Etrigan.
He probably
Etrigan, like for sure.
Yeah, I'm guessing.
Yeah, he was cool. I remember in the first season where he was about, I'm like, oh, we're gonna get more shit with this nigga, because he was like investigating Nolan and whatnot and around, and we just don't see anything from him for a whole season or two. And I'm just like, oh, we finally get to see what this nigga's about. And I enjoyed that aspect, and also a little bit of the commentary around, like we said before, with the heaven and hell thing, where he was kind of discussing that, you know, your people try to demonize or glorify or deify certain things, but it's like sometimes, bruh, you got to make heaven on earth, because you're not really going to get what you believe you're going to get in the afterlife sometimes, depending on what it is. So it's a little bit of jab at Christianity, I guess there are most religions, but I do like the sentiments that they were kind of putting out there, like, bruh, make heaven on earth. Like, do your best with what you have while you have it in regards. But I did hear a lot of the issues around like the animation for that episode specifically that people had issues with.
Yeah, there's all those issues. But like you said, though, that was the best part of that episode. I like that part a lot too, where Damien and Mark are just sitting down talking.
Mm-hmm.
So of all the people to get advice from is a demon in hell. It's like, yeah, it's kind of, because he's already dealing with some severe PTSD, and he's like, I don't want to be Spider-Man anymore. I don't want to be Invincible anymore. And it's like, yeah, he's like, I get that, but here's some things you need to know. Because also he's dealing with the whole idea of like, am I my father's son? I've killed somebody. Episode 1, am I becoming a monster? And he's like, the fact that you were questioning that shows you aren't really a monster. Your dad never did that shit. He never questioned anything. He just did it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah,
that was the best part by far of that. I mean, that episode is literally a goofy ass comedy. It's somehow there is a massive battle in hell, and there's like 5 people on. It's like, what is happening? What's the best actual battle? But
Yeah, so those are the pieces of it that kind of bothered me. That, like, there weren't enough characters around there. Satan himself kind of felt a little bit underwhelming to me. My favorite part of the episode was honestly them falling and like just seeing the helmet appeared and disappear and then appear. It was like, why are you doing that? Like, doing what? Like,
it was funny. It was a comedy.
I love the jabs they have with the MCU and shit. They just be throwing jabs like, bro, you just making your mask reappear and unappear for no fucking reason.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I think the funny thing about this episode, this is another like key example of the things they discussed in the season prior in regards to how animators cut cost with things where they said, oh yeah, we'll have these things happen off screen or reuse the same shots here. Or so the fact that like the entire fight with the monster took place without like off screen and you just saw Buddy like find him, I'm like, oh, this is funny. I see what you're doing here. You didn't have the budget to animate a gigantic fight with Mark and this monster. You're just
that was the fight that we wanted to see. Like that was the only fight that felt meaningful in that episode. Would have been against him or Cerberus.
You're not wrong, but that's the whole point. Is that it was meant to be a spoof for it's a bit. The whole episode is a bit.
It felt like it. I mean, I don't hate it as much as some of the internet did, but I do think that was the weakest episode of this season.
I agree. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. There's no question about that. That's not up for debate. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. In regards to favorite episodes, though, I'm not gonna hold you, gang.
Come on, bro.
I ain't gonna hold you.
Episode 7. Bro, like.
Yeah, I know what it is.
Yeah. When you hit somebody so hard, they fall out of orbit, and then after the conversation, hit him back into orbit, like. Come on, like the whirlwind, like the Shoryuken from hell or from the gods or whatever you want to call it. Like, come on, bro. Like,
with a Falcon punch. You know how fast you got to move to create a vacuum of air around your hand to pull that nigga in, where Viltrumite can't stop himself from being sucked into it.
Yo, fist. He air bended a punch through his. I was like, wow.
I will say though,
again, these are Viltrumites. So what someone said before is there's that Thrag is as far from a Viltrumite as Viltrumites are from like Earthlings or what have you. Like he's that OP essentially. That makes sense. That's crazy.
I will say though, I don't think that was my favorite episode though. I think the Conquest Death episode was my favorite. I think that I was like cringing so hard because again, most of it is just like sound design, and so the animation was solid in it, but I think a lot of what got me was the sound design of like hearing that shit and making me cringe. Now the Thrag Ore Farm, because that's another thing, and we'll talk about this at some point. I feel like we'll probably talk about it now. Fans and patience. I'm starting to realize that even more now that fans don't have any patience. I think we talked about it on the episode before that episode dropped, the week before that came out. Ethan's kind of questioning it. Like, he's like, hey, bro, kind of make Thrag look kind of soft. And I'm like, bro, give it a minute. Like, it's going to be.
It's just the voice. It's just the voice, bro.
No, we were talking about that. Like, for most people, it wasn't just the voice. It was the fact that they saw him, like, physically doing something they perceived as being weak. Like, they saw him holding the skull and flying off and different things like that. And they perceived that as weakness. And I'm like, y'all must not. Because, again, I've been around people. I'm not like I've been around criminals like that. I've been around a handful. But usually when you're around people, the quietest, most reserved person is the most dangerous individual in a room. It's never the loudest person. Like, yeah, Conquest is that loud, boisterous person that has a lot to say. But the fact that you have other Viltrumites, these conquerors that have been known to put niggas out of commission and conquer entire planets, cowering in almost fear to Thrag, and he's barely saying anything or barely moving. I'm like, give it a second, y'all. Especially if you read the comics. Like, most of y'all niggas that I was speaking, I know for a fact I haven't read the comics because you're already kind of like jumping down his throat when we've only seen him in one episode. And then what do we know? The next week, he gets a second to shine. Matter of fact, Ethan, I think I called it exactly what it was going to be, about them having him backtrack. And as he's backtracked on his last leg, now he's going to fucking turn up on niggas. And what happened? He's like, oh, we're going to jump him and finish this off. We're going to call it quits. And literally, first off, badass as fuck to have people hiding in ambush in the bodies. I thought that was cold as fuck. To have the Viltrumites hiding in corpses, and then let alone, he's just chilling. He's just standing there. Please, show me. You're gonna kill me? Show me something.
I mean, that was the best part, in my opinion, was the part where he says, show me. and Mark comes at him, and it flashes a literal demon, like Beelzebub, kind of like right at his face. He's like, "What?" And that was that impact frame was dope.
Mm-hmm.
But again, going back to what you were saying as far as being patient, I don't think the fans, of course, would say, "Oh my gosh, he looks soft," and he did. I would say that was the point. I would say that Kirkman and all of them were trying to deliberately portray Thrag as soft, as weak, so that people underestimate him. The fans watching the show who did not know the comics saw him, were underestimating him. That's what they wanted. So he shows up in episode 7 doing that stuff. Like, oh my God, it catches you off guard. That's the whole point. I get that. If that's what they're going for. Because again, you don't choose. I mean, you have Conquest with Jeffrey Dean Morgan's voice. He's big and imposing. You have Nolan buffed out, J.K. Simmons barking orders. And then you have Lee Pace speaking very measured and calm. Yes, it's going to seem by comparison to everyone else around you soft and weak, but that's what they wanted. That was a deliberate way they wanted.
I don't know. I feel like at least for me, when I perceive characters in strength, I see more strength and intimidation from restraint than I do people that are just loud and boisterous. Now that is coming from somebody who loves Kenpachi Zaraki and how loud and boisterous he is as a character and whatnot. But I do think the stronger. When you look at it's like you see it a lot you see it a lot when it comes to the older characters in anime, right? When you're looking at a Genkai, at a Roshi, Yamamoto, like all these characters who are older, reserved, not really quick to fight. So when they do fight, you're so impressed with the abilities that they have because it's unexpected. And again, at least it's just for me in regards to like reading the room of, if he's the one quiet nigga and all these loud niggas who do all this damage and they're bowing to him, I'm just waiting for when shit happens. That's just me though. And to your point, yeah, go ahead.
So just how like Conquest reacted to him, and we know how ridiculous Conquest was. Like he barely had to say 2 words to this man, and this man Conquest said, "Yes, sir." Like you should have known. And like I'm sorry, like going to an aura farming moment, when he just slightly slid back when he tried to come in for the punch, like oh my god.
It felt very much so similar to like Thrag gives me like early Homelander vibes in regards to like, I'm speaking casually and calm, but I can commit mass murder in like the blink of an eye. And for me, the thing that showed that the most was in that flashback when he was first coordinated, right? And he's kind of, I'm not gonna say anything too crazy, but like I just find it ironic that the one black Viltrumite, he was like, "Hey, you, are you a betrayer? Are you gonna betray us?" And he was like, "No, I don't believe you, bitch." I was like, "What the fuck? Why is he the one you didn't believe?" And I don't know.
Again, that was episode 7. That's when I feel like that's when they're trying to show who he truly is. Because again, we've all seen Empire Strikes Back. Empire Strikes Back, you start off with the first half. Yoda looks like a little goofball. He's not supposed to look like a grand master. That's the whole point. It is misdirection. And the thing is, we've seen Thrag a couple of times. You've seen him in multiple episodes by episode 7. The last time we saw him, he was literally like, screaming about a skull and flying off like a coward. That's again, they were trying to portray him a certain way. They weren't. It wasn't indeliberate. They knew what they were doing. I mean, if you see somebody that's
right.
All he does is say, "No, my skull," and go out. It's like, oh my God, this guy, what are we doing? So it's like, yeah, I get what they're going for. And then the very next time you see him, he takes that dude down with one splash. Like, yeah, we got you. I apologize. And that's what everyone on the internet was saying. We apologize. We were wrong. That's what they wanted. They wanted that sauce. And they got
I get you on that. I
understand one of your favorite
that.
things, set up some payoffs. They set it up to like, they got it. Like, the war is about to be over. It's going to be tough, but they're going to make it. And it was like, nah.
Give you that false hope. Yeah, no,
I agree. I'm saying that's the purposeful thing. The issue that I have is with like the fans who, especially fans that know what's going on. Because if we're being completely honest, 80% of the people that watch this shit more than likely either read the comic themselves or watched a YouTuber react or tell you what was happening in the book at that point. So at this point, you know what Thrag is going to do. You know how demonic he is. And you take one episode, you're immediately reactive as fuck. Granted, it's the internet, so it's inherently negative as a whole. So that's to be taken in regards to a grain of salt there. But I don't know. I think that's something we've seen a lot within the last couple of years in regards to people just being really reactive to things and not giving things time to actually cook and see the result of things. To your point, but which
it's a different era too. Like you said, the internet back in the day, if we're watching this show in live on TV and there was no internet, like in the 90s or what have you, we wouldn't be able to. There wouldn't be such a massive echo chamber saying, "Oh, this guy's weak, this guy's soft." It'd be people just watching it, and they still come back for more. I remember back in the
I
day
think
when I
niggas
was
would have
watching
read it at that
DBZ.
point.
Yeah, I remember back in the day I was watching DBZ on Toonami and I was in college or what have you, or a kid in high school, whatever it was. Because there was no massive echo chamber, we just watch it. It didn't matter how small Frieza looked, how much. Because Frieza, when you first see Frieza, has a little whiny voice. You see a little chair like a baby. Doesn't seem that imposing or scary, but it didn't matter. We still come back for more and more. It's the same thing with Thrag. It's meant to be like you said, Charlie. That's the most dangerous dude in the room. Is the one that seems the most quietest and most unimposing. So yeah, it's a tactic they used before, but because people want to say all kinds of nonsense online, it gets kind of blown up.
Yeah, because I ain't gonna hold you that moment when he was like, "All right, that's enough," and Conquest was like, "But I'm not done though." He's like, "I said that's enough." Yeah. He's like, "Oh, you feeling foggy? Yeah. Please try me." And then Conquest was like, you know what? You got it, gang. I ain't gonna try you like that. Right. You good?
My bad. I apologize.
I apologize for my outburst.
My outburst. But yeah, again, we talked about the anime. I don't know if it was on this show or one of my streams. Like, I get them all mixed up at this point. But the big issue that a lot of people have with the show in regards to the animation, they want it to be in line with some of the more peak animations we're seeing from anime, or even some of the animated stuff we're seeing now. From, like, when you look at, if you watch the last Airbender movie and whatnot. But I get these are just more examples of like the voice acting is just at its peak in this show, and that's where this show shines above most shows. The performances, it's amazing, bro.
So the writing too, the writing and the actual voice acting. Again, that's Sandra. My favorite moment in the entire season wasn't any action sequence. It was J.K. Simmons talking with Sandra Oh after roughly 4 years, I guess, in time of our world. But the seasons, them having a conversation. And when she's like, "Am I still your pet?" And he's like, you caught me with that line. It's like,
you heard that?
That would hurt. So that, again, that's where the top notch comes in. The writing, the actual story. The story, there's nothing like, of course, the season finale. The idea of a hero having to say, "Yes, you can clandestine occupy my world." That kind of writing is what makes people come back to the show. It isn't the over the top Sakuga that you see in something like JJK or the sentence to be a hero. It's more about the story is the focus of this for the most part.
What do you know? Some of the bad writing in JJK finally. Jesus Christ.
I have never in the world claimed that JJK is well written, but it just sets up a lot of meaningful fights, and like the best parts of the story are actually in the fights, like seeing how the characters' relationships with each other are, like how they respect each other, or just say, "Man, fuck this dude," like weak. Like seeing that play out in real time, like seeing like the fight with Toji and his son, Fushiguro. Yeah, like, and seeing like the result, like he actually recognized, like, "What's your name, kid?" Like like. That part was so fire. Like, after seeing him be able to keep up with his dad, and then what's your name? You did go Fushiguro, all right, yeah. Like,
I mean, keep up is some strong words. I don't even hold you.
He kept up to his he survived. Like, we saw how quickly other people did not like survive him. Like,
right.
Or even like Maki and her sister in episode 4 of season 3.
Yes.
That whole, in a lot of ways, it is a lot of action that happens, but the story is about a sister. It's mourning. She's mourning the loss of her sister and claiming back her whole, trying to claim back her power. But again, we're getting on.
But are they Satoru Gojo though? That's the question.
So what now?
Are they Satoru Gojo though? That's the question.
But are they? I see. Are they Satoru Gojo because they're the strongest, or are they strongest because they're Satoru Gojo?
Yes.
It's important.
Yes. My bad. But yeah, I agree. I think for moments, I agree in regards to my favorite moment not being an action one. It was probably the one where Eve is kind of revealing to Mark everything that took place after he left, and just hearing fucking Steven Yeun's performance. And I think Steven Yeun does an amazing fucking job at portraying grief and without making it feel performative, I guess, for lack of a better term, to where it feels like and obviously it's all inherently performative, obviously, because he's acting. But I think there are people that try to do grief in acting and in voice acting where it comes across very extra, where I can tell you like you're putting some stank on it. His shit feels so authentic and real to the fact that it affects you in a way that makes you kind of take back. Like you're holding your breath. I'm like, fuck, he's really going through it right now, and he really is blaming himself in all these different moments. And again, he just makes Mark feel so fucking tragic, even more so than what I thought he was in the comics, in my opinion. Because in the comics, he felt a lot. He felt more like. And again, this is probably Kirkman not at his best writing. I do think Kirkman became a better comic book writer as like time went on. I think Invincible is like solid, but I do think there's a lot of stuff that he gets to polish off in the show that he didn't get to do in the comic. And Mark and how Mark's affected by everything is one of those things where Mark is more straightforward, I guess the best way to put it, in regards to how he reacts to things in the comic versus this.
Yeah, I mean, there's a Stephen Yeun is you're getting your money's worth. I mean, he's a very seasoned, he's an amazing actor. So yes, there's a reason why Kirkman obviously knows him really well from Walking Dead, the live action series of that. So there's a reason why they cast him to be this character. They knew what they were doing. It wasn't on accident. And you're right, he does. He portrays the trauma, the drama, all that type of stuff incredibly well. Better than I give you that. That's why you put him in there. That's why that's why he got cast over some other voice actors or some actors. Even the part where he is getting slaughtered and getting his guts torn out by Conquest, the scream, the agony. I can't watch this scene again. I'm sorry, I can't.
I can't go back to that.
Can you imagine that is brutal? And I'm not sure how many takes it took Steven in the sound booth. I'm sorry, the recording booth to do that. That is agonizing. So it is. He's showing up to work. He definitely is. And again, Sandra Oh, master shout out to Sandra Oh. Massive shout out to Simmons. Massive shout out to, of course, Walton Goggins as Cecil. Cecil is amazing. I mean, from what I've seen too of the comic, he's a better portrayed character as well. And having someone like Cecil to portray the fear, yet kind of like trying to make control of your fear at the same time around all these things that are happening, is amazing. So,
I agree.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I just say, like, I mean, in my personal opinion, he carried Walking Dead. He was the best character, and when he was gone, so was I for the most part.
the view was dropped.
And like just seeing that skill just translated over into the voice acting form, like, I mean, Mark is not the most lovable character, but like you do actually feel and see his journey from start to finish, and like you just like he goes through it, but he finds a way to survive through it, and that's like you I think it's like almost like a metaphor. You see the path to him becoming invincible by the end of it, So
I feel like Mark, maybe not the more favorable, but I think he's the most relatable character in the show. When you're looking at the journey that most people go on, and to your point of like the fact that he doesn't start invincible, but he builds up off callous mentally, physically to become that by the end of the show, and the fact he's kind of thrown into these generational responsibilities and I guess curses in the deep end, like at the moment he becomes in somewhat of an adult at 18. At least for me, I think that's why he works so much, because he is like everybody's medium for getting in this, because we for the most part, everybody else is Mark. For the most part, everybody's like living regular lives, whatever it may be, and then he's just thrusted into this world that he's wanted to be in for a while. Like he's wanted to be a hero, but for the most part, he had to live a regular life. He had to live a regular life, and then when he found out what that shit was, he was like, "Oh, this is a lot. This is more than I bargained for, and I wasn't prepared in any way to deal with all this shit that's going on right now. And no matter how much I wanted to stop and pause to breathe, life is going to keep going on. I just have to fucking figure this shit out as time goes on."
Yeah, I see Invincible. I'm sorry, Otis, go ahead.
And you first.
No, I see Invincible as a reverse power fantasy, because he was a normal teenager for the most part. Now, the thing is, what separates him from like Spider-Man or what have you is that or even Superman, is that he grew up pretty much wealthy, like very much upper middle class. Like he never had to worry about finances. Yeah. He had very loving parents from the jump, all that type of stuff. And then he gets powers. He doesn't have to earn the powers, and then they get the powers on accident. He just grows up with them. They finally hit, and he pretty much knows they're going to hit later on too. So he has a lot of advantages that way, which you think is a great power fantasy, right? The problem is once he gets them, as opposed to going full like Sun Drip Woo, where you can be able to crush everything as you go further and further, things get worse and worse for him for a long time, for a while. It's closer to like Yu Hakusho, where Yusuke is like the journey is getting worse and worse and wearing on him. That's kind of the idea of like a reverse power fantasy. The more power you get, the worse things get for you.
It's
So
the
that is kind of interesting angle there.
it's that same thing you have with every person where it's like, hey man, I want to be adult so bad. I want to move out of my parents' house. I want to get my own car, my own place. And when you start paying your own bills, you're like, fuck, this shit is tough. I don't want to do this shit anymore.
I go back.
It's too late now. You already jumped off the porch, brother. You can't go back now.
Jump off the porch. The porch.
Yeah, but I mean, when you think about it, like especially after season 1, when Nolan is gone, like he in terms of importance to his world, he's Gojo. Like he's the one that has to actually maintain the balance between the people with powers and their egos and agendas and the monsters and the things that are just directly there to just destroy everyone. So I mean, he just doesn't have. He's just not as OP like comparatively. You know what I'm saying? So just seeing like him have to really get there. Like I mean, because you see Superman go through it, you see him have to develop and grow over the course of like fighting through his villains, and like you like contrary to what a lot of people like believe, like a lot of the strength that he has is earned because he has to go like he has to fight everything, like all of it. He is the last square for Earth to survive 9 times out of 10. I do like stories better when he's not, but that's another the whole thing.
Yeah, I think in a similar fashion with, I think the only difference between the two characters is the connection to humanity and the like knowing who you are. Because to our point with Mark, dude grew up a regular life and had, and at least in his mind, well, he did have a loving family for most of his like adolescent life. Like his dad was showing up at baseball games still, like being a supportive dad up until he turned 18 with the powers and shit like that. So he already lived a regular life versus with Kal-El, it's like you're kind of sectioned off from the world for the most part, and your only experience with humanity is your small cut of happiness, your small slice of pie, and the one handful of friends you have in this country town that don't really perceive you as anything greater than what the small town is. And he leaves this town and now has to like discover how dark and brutal the world can be versus with Mark. It's like, hey, my dad is already encountering all this stuff and I'm seeing how bad things can get, but he can handle it though. Like I've seen him handle it. So I'll just be just like him versus Superman. You have to become the standard versus getting to see what the standard looks like. And I think that's the interesting thing about Mark, and also the interesting thing about Superman as well. And why, for the most part, to your point, I don't enjoy when he's in his final form. I like seeing his process of understanding human beings and becoming that, or at least stories where we get to see what is like in All-Star Superman, we get to see what his journey was to get to that point.
Yeah, that's All-Star is the at least a comic, not the movie. In the comic,
Yeah.
it
Oh
does
God,
show
not the movie.
yeah, the movie's kind of rough. But the Grant Morrison book, it does show his journey. Those 12 issues show the kind of his journey as far as him being his last few days and how much what it like to be the all powerful being essentially. What's interesting too is in the series, animated series with Jack Quaid, My Adventures with Superman. Is that what it's called, Dev?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that show. It does show his very much his rookie season as far as how it is rough for him to kind of make friends and meet new people and try to understand what his powers actually are. He's discovering his powers, what his powers actually all the powers he actually has and everything too. And it shows how important his parents actually are to him still. So that show actually is really cool, and it's fun to watch that growing pains of being a mega god, so to speak. So they're more comparable in that regard. That show and then this one.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me that I always found interesting was the methodology of it, because we see Invincible have to deal with it to an extent in this season, earlier in this season, and we see it happen to All-Star Superman in the aspect of, I am somebody who has all the strength to solve all the problems in the world, but there are more problems that I can solve at one time. But also Superman, it was the whole aspect of Lois hearing screams all over the planet all the time. And he's like, yeah, I have to at some point tune some of it out because I can't be everywhere. I can be everywhere at once solving all the issues. And with Mark, it was like him nonstop getting calls from Invincible Inc. and having to have Oliver tap in. It was just like problem after problem after problem. And although there are capable people that can handle some of this stuff, they can't do it as well as you. So it's probably in your best interest to go handle those things, because if you don't handle it in the best way, that's potentially lives that could be lost. And just part of your ethics and your morality that doesn't allow you to let lives be lost when you could be the one to stop them from being lost.
Yeah. And that's one thing that's different too about the show Invincible. Is closer to my hero as far as he has a community from more or less from RIP. He has a group of friends as far as a teen team. that they
A
all
teen
are
team, yeah.
superheroes themselves. They all know his secret identity. They're able to kind of interact with each other. It's not just his dad a superhero. He actually has friends and peers that are with him too. That actually kind of help him grow along the way. Same as Deku had in My Hero. That changes things as well. Spider-Man back in the day was very much alone, and that made him miserable. He couldn't hide things from his girlfriend, from his parents, or his aunt, or whatever. It didn't work for him. So it's interesting to see how different. What it would be like to be a superhero where you have an actual community to interact with, you have kind of people to help mentor you, you actually have different assets. You're not worried about. Like Mark is never worried about paying his rent. Never worried about raising his next meal from. He's not worried about getting laid. He has girlfriends after girlfriends. It's a different dynamic for that character.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's go ahead and wrap it up and give our final thoughts on this season. If we have to, we'll rank it. Out of 10 Viltrumites, how many Viltrumites you guys giving it?
Wait, real quick, before we do that, I want to hear from both of y'all at the end of episode 8, where Thrag shows up and pretty much makes him the ultimatum or the offer. What would you all have chosen? Would y'all have chosen to pretty much try to fight back?
You have to. I'm sorry, not to cut you off, but yeah, you have to take the deal. Like, it would take 2 weeks for anybody else to get there, and then like when they get there, what they're actually gonna do against Thrag? Like,
I mean, it's honestly, I'm curious to see how they like do the ending with Thrag, because I feel like the comics that make the most sense, and seeing how strong he is in this show right now doesn't make a lot of sense either. But we'll see how that goes. But to your point, you take that deal, because if I am invincible and I have a similar methodology of wanting to protect my planet, I may even win this battle. I may kill all the Viltrumites. We may find a way to kill them all. But how many people are you going to lose, and how much of the planet is going to be destroyed in that process?
Yeah.
So it's like you got to take that deal.
That's how I felt. It is a no-win deal, because obviously if they're breeding with your, it's gonna get bad. But yeah, it's kind of what else can you really do at the moment? Yeah.
But you said you haven't finished the comic, right?
No. I saw some snippets because I was curious about Thrag, so I saw some stuff what he does later on. So I know some things that happen with him. I know what Anissa does also, the big thing she does. But other stuff I'm not too familiar with. So.
Read, nigga, read. That's all I got to say.
But I love surprise. I love being surprised with the show when it comes out. So.
Yeah, I feel the same. Like, I read a good portion. I read up to the Viltrumite War, and then one, it started becoming expensive to get the comics, and two, it was just like, I'm enjoying the show so much now. I'm okay with being surprised. So I mean,
that's wild coming from you, which is crazy.
I know. That's like, I was going to say that's like a rare thing for me, because like I usually finish the manga before the show comes out. So.
Years.
For anybody with the pricing dilemma, Global Comics is your best bet. Get a subscription there, and you can read any and everything pretty much to ever exist on Global Comics for the free ski digitally. But all that aside, I'll say it's going to be interesting. It's a lot of what's going to happen going forward is really going to play into the idea, the methodology, and the belief that Mark had early on, kind of a situation. It's going to be interesting. To say the least. I won't spoil anything here. But yeah.
No, but I know fans love the next arc a lot. Fans have talked about this. That's the real. It's a
turn. Oh yeah, I think we're for sure going on a pause with the Viltrumite War for the next season, and we're actually going to deal with a lot of the bigger characters and the bigger arcs that are going to. Because honestly, the Viltrumite War, in my mind, is probably like a B plot in regards to all the other characters that come in, because they've introduced one character in, I'm just letting a Devil Dinosaur. I'm blanking on his name now. Who's a major character in the series, and arguably the number one villain. You could honestly argue outside the Viltrumites. And then we're about to see a major arc in the next season in regards to finding out what happens with Rex and Monster Girl, because it's about to be some crazy shit with them, and I'm excited to see what they do with that, because that in my mind is probably the toughest fight that Mark's going to have in the entire series. Honestly, that fight and that conflict is probably what makes him a lot stronger, and makes it a lot easier for him to take out Thrag after the fact, because of what he has to go through in that fight.
Looking forward to it, yeah.
But yeah, it's gonna be dope. This the way this, because I think they said that you're trying to get to what, like 9, not 9, because this is 4, maybe 7 seasons. I think is what he said.
I heard it was 9.
Is it 9? Okay. Yeah, they have plenty of material to get to 9, and then they're about to have a million spinoffs in regards to stuff after the fact. We have spinoff comics going on right now that's being released that I have not read, because I haven't had much of an interest in it personally, which I'll probably, maybe at some point I'll pick it up.
Because the Battle Beast has become obviously a fan favorite. He has his own book, and Tech Jacket has one too.
It's prequel. His book Battle Beast book is a prequel series though, so it's just leading up to his first appearance in Invincible. So it's nothing It's not a nothing burger per se, but like you see the nigga fight Conquest in the book, and you understand, well, this isn't where he dies or where he dies. So this is going to be the biggest stalemate known to man, and I know it's going to be a stalemate. So what am I really going to get from this fight if I know that there's no stakes in it?
Yeah.
And that was my only issue with that. I bought every issue of the Battle Beast stuff, but that was my only issue with it, is that I know that nothing here is going to harm him because I know when he dies and who he dies to and how he dies.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah.
I mean, it's just I have options, so I'm
like Tech Jacket though. Tech Jacket spinoff, because she's supposed to get a spinoff show, which is going to be interesting. And there's a Cape series after this that I'm curious as to how that's going to work. Because honestly, to your point, I think we talked about it before. A lot of the, we'll say, Earth level heroes, I want to see more of and more development around, because I think there's a little bit more stakes with those kind of characters because they're not as strong as Viltrumite. Mark just can't come in to solo everybody.
Yeah. There's a whole story with a Bulletproof as well, where he I'll spoil this. I'll talk about that.
Yeah, it's going to be a whole thing, which was supposed to take place during the time that Mark was away. So I don't know if they're going to flash back to that or if they're just going to, because he's supposed to have, Mark's supposed to have smoke with that nigga for obvious reasons.
A whole lot of stuff, but I'm not sure if they're putting it in there. So
they'll probably overlap that. They'll probably figure that shit and keep going. Or maybe if they do another Adam Eve like animated project like they did with her movie showing her backstory, maybe they get into some of that stuff in regards to what she went through during that time period. Because that's a whole year just about of shit that happened that we didn't really get to encounter and see her, because she went through it already. So
right, and then Amber too. Amber had. I don't think they're going to do that with Amber.
They're not doing the Amber shit because Mark is kind of over that at this point. And then that's part of what I mentioned in regards to Mark being a straightforward character in regards to some of that stuff, because he's kind of, the Amber shit's dead. I think that's over with personally.
Also, I don't think it would work with that character. They've made her different from the other ones.
It could work because there's nothing like specific that would make her invincible, for no pun intended, to something like that happening to her. Yeah. But it's just a matter of spending the extra time on that with all the other shit you have going on. Yeah. Sorry, y'all, for speaking in like riddles and shit. But I just didn't want to get some shit away.
I'm sorry.
You're in the weeds.
Yeah. But let's go ahead and rank this thing so we can get on to the last topics. Where we at with it?
Yeah, for me, I got to give it a 9.
Ooh, for Otis, that's rare.
Yeah, I mean,
9s don't come out of Otis' mouth often.
Yeah, I mean, not really many things against it. Of course, I would have liked to see an expanded, version of the war to make it really feel like a war. It felt like it, was a bit rushed to get to the end when Mark and the rest showed up. We didn't really get to feel the impact and length of those 10 months. Mm-hmm. But outside of that, I mean, never a wasted moment on screen. I mean, always, like the last episode, the episode before is my favorite. I mean, a quick question. Thrag versus the rebellion, or Madara versus the Ninja Army?
Oof. Madara Ninja Army.
Yeah.
Just more order in my mind. It's just more order. It's an army gang. Like, it's a literal army versus like 7 niggas, and you're already kind of outnumbering them for the most part. I think you're actually outnumbering them with the amount of Viltrumites to the amount of the rebellion that was left, the coalition.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that Madara, that pull up is like 10 straight minutes of him beating up everyone.
Let's be honest, that's a decade plus of build up to a character versus Thrag was like maybe a season, maybe a couple episodes where they mention them, or you even saw a snippet of them.
Yeah. It's a. I see. As far as you're trying to make the comparison, of course I get that. But Madara is a different beast. Like, it's still like I use that in so many classes that I taught, as far as this is how you do a full blown massive villain intro, and that actually pays off a huge setup and everything.
The only shit maybe close to that in my mind right now, maybe Maki, I guess, but even then, that's more not really a reveal, more so like an awakening type of situation.
I think that Madara is still unmatched. I don't think there's a single pull up. I mean, second might be Aizen pulling up on Byakuya and Ichigo after they have their whole war in the first season, but it's a huge gap between the two, like a gigantic Yeah.
I think the only thing that gets me about the Madara thing that's so great is, again, obviously the 10-year buildup, but also you don't know what to expect from him at all, period. Like with Aizen, we've seen snippets of Aizen and his ability to outmaneuver, outsmart people through that thing versus the pull up. So
I'm talking about the first time he did it, like before we knew anything. Like we didn't know that he was pulling strings until like basically during that fight. Yeah.
Yeah, at the Hogyoku, right? When it was about when they were fighting. Yeah. I can see your point there. But even I feel like that was kind of, it wasn't rushed, but I feel like it was quicker versus like, again, this nigga fighting a whole army, gang. It's just like,
that's what I'm saying. Like, it's such a huge gap because like I can't think of any other pull up that's like that impactful. Like, I mean,
because you have the overwhelming, you got a whole army plus Naruto plus the fucking
maybe Whitebeard when Whitebeard showed up at the Marine Fort.
I don't know. That's y'all. I can't speak on that one.
Yeah, but Whitebeard is dope, but he does get like, one, he's backed up. It's not by himself. Two, he does get put down. He takes some serious damage.
I don't know if you got far enough to see Garp on Pirate Island.
No, yeah, Garp. The thing is, it's a break. I guess what it is with Madara. Madara's pull up last so
exactly.
long.
That's why I said it's such a huge gap between his pull up and everyone else's. There's nothing close.
I don't know if they'll ever do another one like that. Garp is awesome. Garp is dope, but even Garp takes an L to Akuji, basically. So it's an interesting thing. My personal favorite pull up is always going to be Trunks against Frieza. When first time you see Trunks.
Yeah.
It's brief as hell, but it's like, it took you 30 episodes to beat this dude. I'm gonna beat him in one slash, but it's a very different thing. But
if you're doing Dragon Ball, mine may be Cell, and you could pick whichever one of Cells you want to do. But maybe like the first appearance with Cell, where he's just like, the horror movie version, where it's like Piccolo trying to figure him out, and he's like, why do I feel me? Again, Dragon Ball Z Bridge always does it funny as fuck. It's like, am I in there? Why am I in there? What the fuck is going on?
Which you rating it? The Otis gave it a 9. We giving it
I'm gonna 9 too. I'm gonna 9. Yeah, I think the only thing that would drop it below a 10 for me is just the it's personal shit in regards to like wishing there was more we could have done with the characters that you introduced in regards to dinosaurs, and it felt like they were trying to do more with they did enough with the Rex and the Monster Girl shit to like let you know that something's going to happen later on in regards to him trying to go and get them. But
they put
I just wish you could have seen a little bit more of that. But that's, again, I understand there's a lot going on with the war. You have to finish out this arc of the Viltrumite War stuff going on before you can even get into any of the other stuff. So that's just, again, it's just like the little tidbit.
It definitely had the highest highs for me in all the seasons. It had that one episode. It's kind of like, what is going on here? It just felt like like so much filler. It just like it felt like it wasn't a different show.
I know it's good when I love it's so funny to me when I see people that don't cover nerd material take a step out of their realm to cover nerd material, like the podcast, the creators, the homies that I know that like, bro, you only talk about sports for the most part, and you watch anime here and there, but you don't really like usually care enough to make designated posts about it. I've seen so many people that aren't nerd creators try to like step out of that bag to like say stuff about it. Now, usually it gets a little annoying because I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about, but I understand you're limited in what you're talking about, so I'm not going to get on you too bad about it. But it's funny when I see that where something is so impactful where people that don't even traditionally check for things like this have to discuss this because it's that impactful.
Yeah, that's true. Dudes, we're talking about this show, which is fun. Yeah, that's true.
It's got to be the most popular content piece in recent history. Like this year, at least. Like I'm seeing it everywhere. Like it is, like you said, like it's connecting with people that don't even usually step into the scope of superhero stuff, or especially animated stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and even more so than previous years, which is interesting too. I wonder how the momentum. I guess the Conquest fight gave more momentum for season 4. I'm not sure why season 4 is.
It's that. I think it's that. And plus, we're also in like, I won't call it a hero drought. I'll say, but I think because there's been so much set up with I guess the only thing we've gotten besides this that was like really hefty in regards to impact is like Superman, because they like DC just put out some really solid animated projects. Yeah, because Creature Commando is really good. They put out some other solid projects, and Marvel's had other stuff they put out, but they just promote it when you're looking at like Eyes of Wakanda and things like that. But for the most part, outside of Superman, there hasn't really been anything super that talked about. I guess maybe the Thunderbolts. I guess ?
That was last.
It's like teetering on that.
Superman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was Thunderbolts was before Superman.
So we've been in like not a hero drought, but it's been like a big pause on I feel like hero content because those two franchises are kind of like ramping up to go into the next phase of what they have going on, as well as some of the legality stuff behind Disney layoffs and Warner Brothers getting bought out with Paramount. So there's been a lot of stuff going on. I think in that gap where Invincible hasn't really had a lot of competition, I guess the Daredevil Born Again, I guess, but even then, I think Daredevil has a lot more. I think it's a little bit more intimidating to most fans because it has a lot of pre-existing lore attached to the IP of the character, and people also, in regards to the Netflix shows, I think some people have stayed away from it in the mainstream stuff. I think Invincible's sitting in that pocket where it's like, yes, there's a comic book history, but it's niggas don't really know there's a comic book history. It's one of those properties to where because I'm going to talk about it in a video at some point soon, where a lot of the hesitancy that some people have with certain projects because they just don't know that thing. Well, some of the lack of hesitancy is because they don't know that thing is based on a book. If that makes any sense, people think that thing is an original IP. Like if I tell somebody V is for Vendetta is based off a comic book, niggas are surprised about that. They just think it's just the movie. They don't know that there's a bunch of other stuff, or The Walking Dead stuff like they don't know it's a comic book before it was a show. They think it's just an original show. Mm-hmm. So there's not as much like fear of dipping your toe in it.
Yeah. By the way, didn't Alan Moore do V for Vendetta?
Yes, I believe so.
And then the Hughes brothers, the guys who did Menace to Society, directed that movie, which is crazy. Yeah.
Honestly, watching both those movies makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. What's your score, E?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a 9. It's a 9. The thing is, for me, it was that episode was weird. The one with because I mean, anytime a character goes to hell, it can be it's opportunity to do a lot with it. And the A story in hell was terrible, but I did like that conversation between Damien, because I actually like Damien Blood a lot. Everyone does. Damien Darkblood, I'm sorry. And that mark was actually fun. Also, give a massive shout out to our boy Mark Hamill. He's in the show that much this season, but there's a part where he, from what I understand too, is different from the comic book, where Nolan goes to him and they have a conversation, and he's like, I can't make you a costume anymore. You are wearing my costume as you destroyed Chicago. And he has to stand up to him and say that, and then you can see he's kind of nervous as he says it to him, and he flies off, and he kind of falls out as far as like breathing hard, like, oh my gosh, that was the most terrifying thing. That whole exchange was in the comics from what I understand. So that was a really cool part too. So there's so many moments like that are so well done that have been kind of rewritten or adapted differently for the animated series as opposed to the comic. So it's a really, really well done piece in my opinion. So yeah, definitely a 9.
I think the best thing about that was the fact that he seemed calm the entire time.
Which is even scarier.
He was like, yeah, we could drink a beer for sure. And it made it seem like they were up there for hours, chopping it up. And as soon as that nigga left, he was like, fuck, I thought I was going to die.
He was speeding a million miles. Could you imagine that though? Because the thing is, again, he's seen what Nolan's done. It's been years since he's seen him. This is the first time he's seen him since then. What can you do? You can't be like, no, it's horrifying. Horrifying.
You think you know him. I only make suits for heroes. He's like, oh, damn. All right. I guess I'll take my ball and go home. Sorry.
Horrifying.
That's funny as fuck. But yeah, great season.
Yeah, I love
Moving into the final topic of the show, Ethan, I'm gonna let you introduce it actually.
Yes, I mean, nice bit of a segue there. As far as horrifying, it does seem that's what seems to be kind of helping, but probably helped Invincible as well as maybe even the boys, and even with Daredevil Born Again. Even with Marl, the Marl series on Disney Plus.
Fire.
Yeah, which is great. I love it to pieces. But having a bit of actual horror, kind of a horror element involved with the narrative, especially with superhero type stories or stories that are typically more fantasy oriented, it seems to be helping them thrive in a way. I know that we're dealing with some dark times in our world, but I wonder why it is that having that kind of a horror element really is that much more appealing to modern audiences. The Clayface teaser, there was a 55 seconds teaser drop, and it was amazing. It was, and it wasn't even trying to be like, this is Batman fighting Clayface, or it's in the world of Batman. No, this is a horror story starring this character known as Clayface. By the way, it kind of is set in the world of Gotham. And people are going crazy for it. It looks amazing. So I'm on board for that type of stuff. And I'm just kind of want to talk to y'all about that, why we think it is, or even stuff with the boys. The boys is always about like having horrific violence. Mark, like I said before, having his intestines put out, that's a horror scene. I don't care who you are, that's horror. you see what Darth Maul does. That's a rated R Star Wars content. That's rated R. What that guy does. And these are things they're really well done, and they're appealing to people. They're fire. They're all fire. So I just want to ask y'all why you think it is.
I would even stretch back further and go into some of the other shows that we've talked about and enjoyed on the show. I mean, Castlevania got some horror elements in it. Arcane has some horror elements in it. I mean, in animation and in live action right now, I mean, horror is doing well. Like, it is entertaining people. Like, it may not have the mass appeal that, like, some of the more mainstream stuff does, but I mean, it's doing well again. So, yeah, go ahead, Charlie.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to ask, you have to ask. The two questions to tackle the first thing you said first in regards to why horror as a whole is something that's influenced and input in a lot of these different things. It's stakes above anything else. I think horror is the one genre where stakes being set is maximized. Because the stakes at the end of the day are always your life. Like, somebody could die, and death in horror usually is final, usually, depending on the story. So somebody dying means things are over with. So somebody's death means things at that point. And the risk of that happening, I think, is what makes a lot of people sit on the edge of their seat, especially with something like The Boys, where literally somebody dying at any moment could. And that's usually why Homelander scenes are so tense, is because death in this series is usually very final, and you have this person at any moment they can murder everyone in the room, so you never know what's going to happen. So you're always sitting on the edge of your seat because the stakes are set so high all the fucking time with a show like that. Secondly is the idea of, like, making you care about a character, because I think that's the thing with horror that you have to get very quickly, is that you have to have some kind of care for the main character immediately, or feel something for them, or else you don't care if they die or not. Sometimes in a lot of the more cheesier slashers, it's like, okay, we make characters who are unlikable because we know they're going to die, and because we know you're going to enjoy seeing them die, depending on what the series is. But for the most part, usually you want to make characters that are immediately connect with an audience, so when they get the chance to die, it hits you that much more harder. And those are the main things I think could be put in any and every story if you wanted to have any kind of suspense in the story. Is just the aspect of stakes and making your character actually relatable to people, and how that goes. Now, to your Clayface question, I think that has more to do with the fact that this is innovative in the world of superhero stuff, because we got it in Multiverse of Madness, but Raimi didn't really get to do Raimi stuff fully in that because of the way the MCU was set up, because there's so much multiversal things going on, and you can't really kill off anybody from the main universe. So we have to go over here to where she can do some crazy stuff to where it's not going to affect too much what's going on in the mainline MCU. But in this Clayface movie, we know this movie is going to be in the mainline MCU, and that this is going to have a lot of intrinsic value in regards to what happens in the narrative of everything going forward. And we're going to see some characters making an appearance that we are excited about. And also, this is going to be very different in regards. It's going to be a very much so a horror film. It's something that Gunn talked about before, and why I was so excited about his DCU going forward. When we discussed it, it was the aspect that he's going to bring in writers and directors that do different types of things and let them create in their own vision, and these things can cross over and blend together in one thing. He can do a feel-good Superman style movie in the Superman film, but now we're going to have a Mike Flanagan horror film, which we've discussed how much we like Mike Flanagan's work on it before with the almost called the casting of Frank Stone, the Haunting of Hill House, and the one show that Otis loved, Follow the House of Usher. Yeah. These are serious, and hell, I've talked about the movies like Oculus, other movies that he's written, that he's directed, that he does horror very well. And he's about to do a fucking Carrie movie really soon that's already filming, I believe. And I think he's working on the new Exorcist film as well. He's doing
Exorcist. He didn't actually direct the Clayface. He produced Clayface and gave like stories.
He wrote it. He just wrote it. In my mind. Yeah, he's not directing it. But yeah, he's directing the Carrie movie. I think he's directing and writing The Exorcist with ScarJo and some other people as well. So this is a working dude. He knows horror. So in the film like this, I'm excited to see what this looks like, especially with the aspect of it being more body horror oriented. It seems as though it's going to have a lot of remnants of The Substance. I don't know if you ever watched that, but one of the only horror films to be Oscar nominated because of how great it was, especially from a special practical effects standpoint. And it took a lot of different tidbits from things like Basket Case. That's probably right around your alley, Ethan, in regards to another horror movie that came out that was more practical oriented.
Very Cronenberg-esque. Yeah, Basket Case got
Yeah, Cronenberg just fucking got with the Mummy movie that just came out recently. So again, when you're talking about how horror just does well, horror inevitably is going to always usually make you feel good coming out of it because you were under suspense most of the time. Like it's really tough for me to watch a horror film, at least horror film that get pushed to the point of being in theaters, like mass releases, where I come out of it feeling like I didn't get my money's worth. I usually feel like, oh, I got taken on this roller coaster for an hour and I have fun with it. I'm done with it. I don't have to feel like there are so many things missing in this film because at the end of the day, I came for this feeling of suspense at the end of the day, and I got that in my film.
100%. I mean, even also if we go into slightly off tangent as far as into anime, the world of anime, the biggest series now, they call the Dark Trio. As far as Hell's Paradise, JJK, and Chainsaw Man. The Chainsaw Man movie was fire. JJK season 3, of course, everyone's going crazy for that. Hell's Paradise season 2 was great. So I mean, so it's the idea is just like, I mean, people, like you said, everything you mentioned, Dev, is that people want the finality. People like to see there actually are consequences for actions the characters take. People want to get more invested in the characters, knowing that they can die. Makes that much more appealing. Invincible, in the show Invincible, there are characters that die a lot. And it makes the show that much more compelling because, like,
shout out to Rex.
Shout out to Rex, our boy Rex, Jason Mantzoukas. So yeah, these are things I guess that really do having that sense of actually the lack of status quo makes things that much more compelling.
Mm-hmm. I think even too, because you brought up Exquisite Corpses in the chat in regards to examples of it. I think that's part of why that is doing so well, because you have it's a tournament arc. Let's be honest, it's a tournament arc. So tournament arcs in general, we know tend to do well. But it's the fact that this tournament arc has stakes. Like when you die, it's over with, and then all the other people in the town as well that you've come to love and come to find, like, make bonds with, they're dying as well. So you never know what's going to happen. So every issue is a roller coaster ride. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's really well done. Really well done. Yeah. Also, I recently started reading Crossed. I made to stop reading that book. That book was crazy. But Crossed is another thing. Have you all read or heard of Crossed?
Didn't you read Berserk?
No, I mean, Berserk. Yeah, that's what kind of got me into it. Berserk is my favorite, and Akira. They're both very dark manga, and so they came up as far as recommendations. Like, let me check this out. It's Grant Morrison. I was like, Jesus Christ! It starts off like a nightmare fuel. But again, it's definitely a horror, and it's very much, it's almost it's like the rage virus meets cannibals, and it's crazy. But it people having to deal with severe circumstances in an apocalyptic world, and why it is that there's a fascination we have with it. So
I think also with horror, it has a way of being able to showcase subtext in a more subtle and poetic way. If you read Crownsville, the 5-issue series by Rodney Barnes that he published with Oni Press, it's one of those things to where it's, well, I don't know if y'all have read it at all, but it's playing on the actual real life place of Crownsville, the psychiatric hospital that, another place where they experimented on Black folks for whatever reason, because they felt like we could do whatever for whatever reason. And it played on a lot of that, a lot of guilt aspects, a lot of things in regards to governmental society and how they treat Black folks and all that good stuff. And you're able to do all this horror and have all these horror aspects in it, but also have a lot of strong subtext in regards to civil rights movements and things of that nature in the story without it feeling super heavy or overdone. Not, well, heavy is heavy, but I guess preachy is the best way to put it, if that makes any sense. You can deliver really powerful messages really subtly versus what I feel like is a little bit more difficult to do with other genres, I feel like. Because you could literally make all the evil things be embodied in a villain, in a monster, in a virus, and whatever it may be. That thing can embody all those negative aspects of it. And overcoming that thing is very symbolic in that manner.
100%. And that's one of the things my friend, I think I told you before, I have a friend who is a therapist, licensed therapist, and she talks about why, and she loves horror and true crime, that kind of crap, but she talks about why that can be so appealing to women in particular is because it forces people to confront their fears, in a sense, and deal with them. Even though, of course, in movies, oftentimes they're way over the top, but it's still the same. Like, at the same time, you have a chance to kind of vicariously live through somebody else as they're confronting those things. I know I told both of y'all before how my favorite video game, especially during the pandemic, was Bloodborne. And Bloodborne is very much a Lovecraft, like, love letter. It's a very, very drab horror game, essentially. But by having that, I was able to confront my own depression and feelings I had of anxiety, everything too. So I get the actual process that people use for that type of stuff for horror
Mhm.
films, comic books, anime, and games.
Anything, Zale?
Yeah, I mean, I went first, but yeah, circling back to it, I mean, it's just s- when stakes actually matter, like moments feel impactful.
Mhm.
It didn't feel like you just watched something for nothing. The always going back to anime, like when Pain showed up and destroyed the Leaf Village and put Kakashi in the ground, literally and metaphorically, that felt real. And then when they pulled the DBZ and brought everybody back right after, you know, it. In my opinion, that started the downward slope of Naruto, Shippuden, and then, I mean, yeah, you get to the high of Madara, but even then, like that's not resolved well.
I think to your point, even with the fall, I think that's when DBZ started to kind of really take a fall off. Is the aspect of that being any stakes? Because initially it was like, yeah, you can come back, but you only have so many times you can come back, so
They
you
said
better use
once.
that shit
They literally
wisely.
said once. Yeah.
So once that became the thing of like, oh well, that's here, but on Namek, it don't really fucking matter. We can do whatever on Namek.
Yeah.
It became a thing, and that's why I think honestly why the ending of the Cell Saga meant so much, because Goku had finality to his story. Like he died, and he's not coming back to save the day anymore. So it's on Gohan, and which is why I think the Buu Saga had potential if Goku would have stayed dead and you let Gohan figure that whole arc out himself.
Yeah.
But I think just bringing him back kind of like it validates a lot of the things that Gohan went through at the end of the Cell Saga, where it's like, all right, we're backtracking his entire arc because you're coming in to save him at the end of the day, and you just kept that the thing going forward.
Yeah, and then they also do. I agree with that, and they also do it. They do it with Gohan, Goku, and Vegeta. Remember, Vegeta made a massive sacrifice right to blow up food for his family. He says, "I love my daughter and I'm sorry, my son and wife for the first time ever." Blows himself up. Then he comes back 40 episodes later. It's like you're making death literally meaningless in this series.
And that's something we can get into for a future episode. But it's the I think that was one of the key times where fans' input made the project worse. Because from what I remember, Toriyama was done with Goku and he was dead, but fans raging and really wanting Goku back is what made him bring Goku back and having to rewrite him into that next arc or even make another arc to begin with. And we've said it a million times before. Fans don't know what they want in regards to stuff. Like you think you know until the writer or the artist gives it to you, then you're like, oh my god, I like this a lot better. Well, if you give them time to fucking cook, and it goes into our whole conversation earlier around being patient with regards to your art, you just gotta be patient for stuff. Like, although the ending may not be what you wanted, you never know if it's something you may love like 5 years later because you waited for it and you got time to digest it. Versus you getting the easy, obvious thing, like the easy, obvious characters getting into a relationship, or this easy, obvious win this character could have. If you get something other than that, you may end up liking it better over time.
If fan service is a weird thing, it usually doesn't work because it wasn't, in a sense, it's not what the actual creators planned. It doesn't. It kind of oftentimes it'll go against the actual characters in the actual in story, what their actual motivations and stuff are, because it's trying to appease an audience in a weird way, in a weird shallow way.
It's very few and far between. Yeah, I think the only one of the only examples I can think of is the death of Jason Todd, probably, and getting the Red Hood character out of that.
Because fans hated it. Fans, there was literally I was alive. I was alive during this time, so it was always a thing. You could call in that hotline to actually go to have Jason Todd killed off. I didn't call, but I mean, it's crazy.
Shoulda.
No, I did. It seemed mean. It's like, why would I wait for this guy to get killed off? But,
yeah, but I mean, it's harder to translate in comics because I mean, just a character will die in a run, and then the next run will have no connection to that at all, and everything is back to a status quo. So I mean,
let's start doing something going forward here. And this is just me as I fight this stuff. When we have these issues in comics, let's be specific. It's the issue with Marvel and DC, because this is not an issue with other comics. This is just a Marvel and DC issue.
Yeah, it's absolutely, it's the big two, because they're the only people that have, like, why you don't have to do like 74 runs of one character. You can tell a run and then go to a next run and like reference it there, build a world from it. But we don't need another Batman every like 6 months.
They're going
space that shit out.
Runs at the same time.
And you know who's next? Marvel's about to slut out Miles Morales now. Because Miles just had an amazing run with Cody Ziegler, where he had did some amazing stuff from the end of Blood Hunt up until the end of his 35 issue solo run. The nigga had Wakandan armor, was a fucking host for Anansi, had a lot of cool stuff happen, and his run ended. And I'm like, all right, cool, that was cool. Miles got some time to shine. And we're like, all right, going into next year, we got time to give another character or black character time to shine. Who's it going to be? Hey, Miles is coming back for another solo run. What the fuck? We just finished this shit like last year. What are we doing? Why are we bringing him back again?
They're gonna give him at least probably 2 more runs, because the movie Beyond Spider-Verse, they just dropped at CinemaCon. They just dropped that trailer for that. So the movie's probably coming out, I think, next year or something.
Yeah, it's next year.
Yeah, so they're gonna. I mean, obviously, they're trying to milk it as much as possible, get as much momentum as possible. So you probably got 2 or 3 more runs.
But it would behoove you to drop that when the movie drops, and not like a year before it comes out. Because by the time you get to the show, you're mid-run. I mean, unless you actually dropping a trade at that point, maybe you probably could help out. But I don't know if you're getting. I don't know. Maybe. Plus, they're still pussyfooting and letting the racists win with the idea of not just calling him Spider-Man. It's Miles Morales in big red letters without just calling him Spider-Man. You have to give him all kinds of other minor aliases, like what was it, Web or WizKid? Something. They have some. Try to give him Spinner, or they try to give a bunch of other names so they can avoid calling him Spider-Man. And I'm like, bruh, you can put Peter out the pasture for a little bit. Peter has 75 years, it feels like, plus of content and stories. And the last 10 years, it feels like it's been spinning in its own wheels in regards to you able to do anything with the character to start with. So just put him out the pasture for a little bit. You can have this man be Spider-Man. We've had Laura Kinney be Wolverine for a minute in different occasions, and that went well for her character. We can let Peter sit out for a little bit.
Yeah. I think the last time like getting divorced, and it's a whole mess with Peter.
I mean, we just some bullshit with Paul and some other shit, and now Mary Jane she was Venom, I guess, for a little bit there, which was fucking stupid because it should have been Luke Cage and how they set that shit up. But I digress.
Luke Cage's Venom would have been terrifying.
They had a whole thing in the beginning of the all new Venom shit where it was like a 4-way matchup of like who's the new Venom, and it was Rick Jones was a possible person, Luke Cage. What was the Perry White? Not Perry White. Perry White is the editor for. Is it DC or is that the one for Daily Bugle?
He's Daily Planet.
I'm sorry.
Was it Robbie or I can't remember the name of the black guy, the editor at the Daily Planet. You know what I'm talking about?
Robbie.
Is it Bobby?
Robbie, yeah, Robbie.
Robbie, yeah. So he was a potential. I'm like, that would have been very interesting because that's somebody you don't do anything with. And the last one, I think Mary Jane was just like random as fuck. Like, I don't even think she was on anybody's radar. Lo and behold, after like 2 issues, the second issue, we find out she's the new Venom. And I'm like, why? Why do we keep trying to force Mary Jane into situations like this? Because you already had a thing where you gave her like luck manipulation powers or some shit like that didn't hit right with niggas. That wasn't really good. So now we're making her Venom. And then that shit didn't really sell well. So you immediately took that. I think they made Eddie Brock's son Venom again because he was supposed to he wanted to symbiote back anyway after the King of Black stuff. Again, Spider-Man and Spider-Man stories for the last decade plus have just been spinning in place. They haven't been able to do anything good with Spider-Man for the most part. So again, just put that nigga out the pasture. Make him go into a mentorship role and let him be happy for once.
Yeah, but we digress. But yeah, I mean that's. I think that was I just want to address the idea as why it is that horror, that adding that element into superheroes or even fantasy can be so successful and be compelling.
I mean, if you watch this show, we go on tangents. This is
yeah
tangent.
That's tangents. That's all it is.
Our tangents have tangents.
Yeah, give me another video idea for today. I'm gonna record, so appreciate y'all for that because. Thinking about it more, there's some more shit I can get off about this. So that will be a video I record in like a couple hours. But yeah, any other closing thoughts, sentiments before we get up out of here?
No, it's good seeing y'all.
Yeah, man. For everybody tuning in, this has been another episode of the Then and Now podcast, y'all. I know the inconsistency, something we're working on changing. Life happens. Things have been happening. We had some technical difficulties, but we are working on making this a more consistent thing. Thank you guys for helping us cross that 1K subscriber threshold. It means a lot to us, and we had a lot of stuff on the way. From a podcast standpoint, from a comic publisher standpoint with Echelon graphic novels. Y'all just stay tuned what we have going on and stay tapped into any of our social media that you can find in the description below. But y'all, before we leave, remember, forever and always, Oh, I had to bump this shit. I bumped my button and muted it by accident. Damn it.
You're listening to the Then and Now podcast.
That's perfect. Perfect.
Yeah. Peace, y'all.